Now, when does that start? When did we start with that? Second night of Pesach, exactly. Yeah. The second night of Pesach. And when is that going until? Shavuot. It is taking us from Pesach all the way to Shavuot. Fascinating. So why are we counting the Omer? Before we go into the halachas, because I'm going to speak out the following different points. Why are we doing this mitzvah? What is the significance of Sefirat HaOmer? And perhaps understanding why we're doing this mitzvah will actually be super helpful, because it will give this entire period of time just a bit more meaning.
Well, we were in exile, right?
What?
This was for when we were in exile.
Well, this is the time that we left Egypt.
40 years.
And what?
That was 40 years. It's only until we got to Sinai.
Right. So we're going to be speaking out exactly why we do the Sefirat HaOmer, and we're going to speak out the halachah of how we count. Okay? Halachas. What happens if you forget? It's like a typical thing to happen. Now, who is actually obligated in this mitzvah? Is it men? Is it also ladies? What about children? What do we do? And then I'm going to be speaking about other halachas, about the restrictions during this time period. There are certain restrictions we have. I'm going to speak out those halachas. Now, I want to speak out. And this is relevant to all the halachas I speak out in any class, is that I'm going to speak out halachas and the ideal halacha. Now, it could be that some of you may feel that you're not quite ready for this, okay? And that's fine. But that doesn't mean that I'm saying a halacha over here, and if you just feel you're just not ready for this halacha, that you're just not doing a good or this or that, that's fine. I understand that everyone here may have different circumstances, and you may not feel ready for those halachas. We can have a conversation about it if you would like. You can speak to anyone else or anything, but this is an opportunity for growth. This is not an opportunity for you guys to feel like, oh, I didn't realize, like, I'm not doing this right, I'm not doing that right. It's an opportunity for understanding and appreciating what halacha is. I say this so often, but I'll repeat it anyway. The word halacha in Hebrew, I don't think they have things here, but it's not important. Halacha, which is hey, lamed, chav, hey. Yeah? Halacha. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you. This is a large water bottle. I came to Yeshiva in the park in the old city, and I realized, my car was at a mechanic yesterday, that my water was leaking. And I do not want to drive home with that water in my car because it's going to burn my engine. So hopefully this will last me.
Oh, your car.
Yeah, for my car, exactly. In any case, yeah. Continuing. So therefore, the word halacha, hey, lamed, chav, hey, what does it stand for in Hebrew? Halacha normally we translate as Jewish law. This Jewish law. Well, in fact, it's not really what it is. It's not a great translation. Halacha comes from the Hebrew word halicha. I think you speak a bit of Hebrew. What does halicha mean? To walk. What has Jewish law got to do with walking? The answer is very simple, that we walk through life. Halacha is a handbook, how we're going to be able to walk through life. Not just to walk through life, but how to have a meaningful life. That is what halacha is about. Halacha with Torah values, Torah perspectives. That is going to help us to actually have a meaningful life. And we see that in all areas. When we'll discuss maybe sometimes the halachas of kashrut, the halachas of why we can't eat certain foods, we'll see that certain foods may actually resemble bad character traits which are not actually fitting with our value system. That may be the deeper meaning why we stay far away from certain foods that are not kosher. A lot of times we are not aware of that. But just to understand and appreciate that all those halachas, and that could also be halachas of hilchos yichud, you may have heard of too. Halachas of marriage, whatever it is, it's all to preserve the relationship, to have a meaningful life. That is what any halacha is about. Even the laws of making blessings over food is just to have a meaningful life, because what is the purpose of making a blessing? The purpose of making a blessing is to be able to just connect to God and appreciate that what you're eating or drinking is just that God wanted you to have that. Just for a moment throughout your busy life, to be able to recognize that and just make that moment of connection during your workday or whatever it is, could be so fundamental to stay connected throughout your day. So that is just what we see. Any halach is like that, whether it's halachas of prayers, halachas of anything. Okay, so that's really important. That is what halach is about. Okay, so coming back to Sefirat HaOmer. So what is Sefirat HaOmer about, and why do we do it? Okay, so from the second night of Passover, okay, until the day before the holiday of Shavuot, okay, which is going to be in about a month. About 5 weeks. All Jewish people, the Jewish people engage in a unique mitzvah, and that is called Sefirat HaOmer, the counting of the Omer. The Torah commands us that during this time, each year, we count 7 complete weeks for a total of 49 days. At the end of the 7-week period, we celebrate Shavuot. Okay? Shavuot literally means weeks. Now, regarding the reasons for this mitzvah, I'm going to speak out 2 reasons. Okay? The first reason, perhaps the foremost reason, is that we count to demonstrate our excitement and thrill for the receiving of the Torah that's going to be happening after Shavuot. When the Jews left Egypt, they actually became a nation. They were on the way of becoming a nation when they were going to be surrounding Mount Sinai. They were going to be receiving the Torah. At that point, they became their own nation, and they received the Torah. So now we know that when we celebrate any holiday, and this is also specifically mentioned in the Hasidic books, but this is obviously true, mentioned in many, many books, and we know this, is that when we have any festival throughout the year, it's not just something that we commemorate. Oh, this is something that happened like many years back, and we're going to celebrate it now just to remember that. It's not just a day to remember something that happened. It's something that's happening every year again. And that's what makes it so fundamental. It makes it so fundamental that Shavuot is coming, and every year again, we're, so to speak, accepting and receiving the Torah. And we're so thrilled about that. Obviously, that Hashem gave the Torah. God gave the Torah to the Jewish people so many years back. But we, in our own way, we're going to try and make sure that we are committed in a way that we are going to be ready to receive the Torah. And we are very excited about that because the Torah is the center of our life. And because of that, how thrilled are we? We are so excited, and we're counting every day to make sure to demonstrate our excitement for that. But there's also a deeper reason for that. And the deeper reason for the Sefirat HaOmer is because when the Jews were in Egypt, they actually sunk to the lowest of the lowest, and they assimilated and accepted many of the Egyptian immoral customs. And the Jews were, as they say, they were opened by the Memtes Sharei Tuma, the 49 gates of impurity. They were so impure, the Jewish people. They should, if they would have sunk a little bit more, they wouldn't have been able to come out of Egypt. It says clearly. They were at the lowest of the lowest. In fact, they weren't worthy of being redeemed out of Egypt. Why were they redeemed? We read in the Haggadah Seder night, because of Hashem. God gave 2 mitzvahs to the Jewish people. The mitzvah of the carbon Pesach and also the mitzvah of Bris Milah. That's what happened over there. And in that schos, Hashem took out the Jews out of Mitzrayim. Now, there are many different explanations why the Jews did merit to come out. It's also the ladies who were very special at the time, who made sure their husbands wouldn't sin, all that, all the wives and everything else. There's many things to speak about. Maybe I'll leave that conversation for the seminary to tell them they're important too, which they are. But I'm saying that's many different reasons why we didn't merit to come out of Egypt, but we were at the lowest of the lowest. And by the way, this shows that when a person is in an environment of so much impurity, the environment has an effect on someone. It's clear, because the Jews were stuck in Egypt for such a long time, and at one point it starts affecting the people, and that's what happened. They were at such a low place. So when they were at the depth of impurity, at that point they were on a journey to go from leaving Egypt until Mount Sinai and to get back to a very high place. We count 49 days. The 49 levels of tomb of impurity, they had reached the rock bottom, the lowest of the lowest. They had 49 different steps now back up to get to Sefirat HaOmer, to get to Shavuot. Now, in fact, the idea that a person has the ability to get from a very low place to a very high place, that is basically what Sefirat HaOmer is echoing. It's a beautiful idea, guys. And the idea shows us that however low a Jew may have fallen, however low you may have fallen, if that's in all areas, or maybe even in one area you feel like, I just can't manage this aspect of Judaism, or this or that, whatever it is, however low you may have fallen, this is a time you can have divine assistance to really work on yourself and get to a very high place. And that's what this time can achieve. 49 days to work on yourself. And that's how Egypt, how the Exodus of Egypt, how Yetzias Mitzrayim, Pesach connects to Shavuot. We left Egypt, and now we're back on the way to Shavuot, to achieve greatness, to be able to be worthy to receive the Torah. A couple of things I would like to mention about that, which I think is very important. I said earlier that every holiday is not just commemorating the past, it's just we're kind of really reliving that. So there's many explanations. How do we see that about the Exodus of Egypt? what does that even mean that we're reliving that? It's something that happened in history. It's definitely something that happened in history. But how can we appreciate that right now? So I've seen many different commentators that explain that, in fact, what does Mitzrayim mean? Mitzrayim means Meitzar is a limitation. It's a limitation. That's really what it is. And Meitzar is a limit or a boundary. So the Yetzias Mitzrayim that a person can have on his own personal level throughout Passover was that a person sometimes is limited in certain ways. Specifically spiritually, he feels very limited. So Pesach was a time that a person can also have that divine assistance to get out of those limitations and break those boundaries and get through and achieve new heights. Now, that's a whole different thing by itself. But once you've had that, you can try and get to those 49 different levels and get back to Sefirat HaOmer. What's so important about that is that in Judaism is not just about understanding where you want to get to, okay? Like sometimes you can tell a person, okay, this is where you're now, but you should be over there, okay? That's not going to work for anyone, okay? In Judaism, we have to understand that it's very significant to understand what is the right way to get there to. And that can be sometimes the most challenging because you might have a vision in your mind of what kind of Jew you want to be or what kind of person you want to be. But essentially, the most complicated piece of it over here could be is how are you going to get there? What is the best way to get there? Now, that piece is something that we need a lot of divine assistance for, okay? And we see specifically that the Sefirat HaOmer also echoes that because we see there's 49 different rungs. Now, there's 49 different steps. You have to understand when you see a ladder, for example, with 49 different steps, you got to be honest with yourself and understand where are you holding on this ladder? Where are you holding? In any aspect of life, Judaism, whatever it may be. And you have to try and find what the next rung is that is suitable for you. So you in your own way can get and excel in your own journey. That means that, for example, what may be suitable for you may not be suitable for you, or vice versa, whatever it is. Okay, so I may have a friend that it may be good for him to do this to improve his Judaism, whatever it is. It may not be good for me. Okay, so that's important to understand. This period of time, and that's really what I want you to walk out with, is a time that a person can really work on himself to get to a new place in Judaism. And it's very important, but mainly by figuring out what the best journey is for you. And everyone's journey is obviously unique. And for that, specifically in yeshiva, just 1 second, Johnny, I want to hear your question. Specifically, being in yeshiva is a great environment for that because we obviously have resources. You have a mashgiach, you have, rabbis also have foundations in the Beis HaMedrash program. Speak to anyone, speak to any of your mashgichim, speak to me, whatever you want to do, and we can help you guys figure out what perhaps the best ways for you guys to advance. And specifically in the beginning of Zman of a new semester, I think this is key. I think this is really important to understand. Guys, you have no idea what your potential is. Like, no one is fully appreciative of his potential. There is so much you guys can achieve, okay? And please use the opportunity and use the resources to make sure to really have that time over here and be productive. And then by Shavuot, at the end of the Sefirat HaOmer, you can see that you really have achieved a tremendous amount by using your time wisely. Yeah, Johnny, you had a question.
Yeah, I heard another opinion that there's not just 49, there's also the minus 49 as well. There's that thing, and then it gets to 0 as we left Mitzrayim, and now we're climbing to the first 49, to the positive 49 towards Shavuot.
Yeah, so when we were minus 49 when we got to Mitzrayim, so...
And so when you said, you need to be honest with yourself about which stage we're at of our journey, right? How do we know, if we're in the positive side or the negative side?
Well, what I mean to say with that is more in a different way. It's a great question, Johnny. It's what I mean to say is that no one is holding minus 49 or plus 49. You know exactly where you're holding, but every person essentially wants to grow. We're all here to grow. Everyone is here to grow. Everyone's sincere and serious about their Judaism, and everyone wants to grow. So you want to grow too. But for you to be able to grow, you may have some sort of vision in your mind or a goal where you want to be. But sometimes the challenge can be, how do I get to that goal? And is this a realistic goal for me? What is for me the next step? If I take 3 steps, if I take a step that's too large, it may not work for me. If I take a step that's too small, I may not have challenged myself enough. So the work is that we have to try and figure out is what is a suitable step for you to take. And that's what I meant is super individual for each person. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. And it's different in very different areas of Judaism.
Yeah.
Obviously, in some stuff, maybe I can take bigger steps. In some stuff, I only need to take tiny steps.
That's what makes it so individual. Exactly. Great. Okay, so that's just a little bit of a background. Let's go through some important halachas. Who's obligated to say Sefirat HaOmer? Okay? Each guy over bar mitzvah, each man over bar mitzvah is obligated. But as I mentioned, only men are obligated. Ladies are exempt. Why are ladies exempt? Because
time-bound mitzvah.
it's a time-bound mitzvah. Because we have a rule that any positive commandment that is time-bound, a woman is exempt. Like shaking the lulav, okay, it's time-bound. Only happens in sukkahs. Okay, any other example, guys?
What about Shabbos?
Oh, Shabbos is time-bound. But since we have an extra verse by Shabbos stating that, teaching us that women are also obligated, that's what makes them obligated. Excellent.
Havdalah is maflokus though.
Oh, you got it. Excellent. That's why women
It's
shouldn't be making their own Havdalah. It's a question of whether that's why women shouldn't be making Havdalah.
Yeah.
They should be waiting
She
for a
should
man.
hear it.
Yeah. Good.
But
Excellent.
then, I don't know what other positive time-bound. Oh, saying the Shema at night.
Saying the Shema twice a day is also a positive commandment that's time-bound. Women are exempt.
Wait, Purim though. What about the Megillah?
Purim and Chanukah. Purim and Chanukah, women are obligated, even though it is a time-bound mitzvah. Over there, we have a specific reason why they're obligated, because they were integral part of the miracle.
And what about Matzot? Also.
Matzahs, also specific. We have Tesvav. Yeah, so there aren't many positive time-bound commandments that we have specific psukim for that highlight that women are obligated. But if we don't have that, the default is that women are exempt. Okay, there are many, many different cases where we have women that are, in theory, exempt. To be honest, a woman is also exempt of listening to the shofar on Rosh Hashanah.
Oh, wow.
The custom is for them to listen because it's very special and they want to hear it. But in theory, women are exempt of that, time-bound. Now, there's a thing, is that what happens if a woman says, I know I'm exempt, but I still want to do the mitzvah? Can she say the bracha or not? Now, that is a dispute between the Ashkenazi custom and the Sephardi custom. For example, my wife says, I also want to shake lulav. I know I'm exempt, but I want to shake lulav. So that's clear that if she does it, she's doing a mitzvah. No question about it, she's doing a mitzvah. The question is, can she make a blessing over that mitzvah? We know we make a blessing over a mitzvah. We say, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvos v'tzivanu al natilas lulav. That's the bracha we make over shaking lulav. Yeah. Can she make a bracha on that or not? So according to Ashkenazi custom, she can. According to the Sephardi custom, you can't. The funny thing is that my wife is originally, in my case, she's Sephardi. My in-laws are Sephardi. So before she got married to me, she didn't yet have my customs. She would never make a bracha on shaking a lulav. Mm-hmm. But after she got married to me, she makes a bracha on the lulav. So that's what she does, because she has Ashkenazi customs now. Because she got married to me, that's how it works. So that's just one thing that's important. And counting of the Omer, Sefirat HaOmer, is again one example which we're talking about now, which is a time-bound mitzvah, and therefore women are exempt. Okay? So therefore, we count with a bracha, women count without a bracha, unless your wife to be, Bezrat Hashem, is Ashkenazi, then she can also make a blessing. My wife also makes a bracha. Okay. How do we count? At night after Mariv, Mariv is 8 o'clock here, by the way. And afterwards we have a great night Seder. Please, guys, you're all invited. We have 8 o'clock, we have Mariv, and at the end of Mariv, the Chazan, the person who leads the prayer, he does Sefirat HaOmer, and he makes a bracha. He says, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvos v'tzivanu al Sefirat HaOmer. And then, following that bracha, he says the number of that day. Okay, unfortunately, we do have to leave it now, but tomorrow I would like to continue about speaking about what happens if you forget a night. You forgot. Let's say today is 12 days of the Omer, yeah? Let's say last night you forgot. Could you say it today? If you say it today, you say it with a bracha, say it without a bracha. What if you forgot an entire day? Could you start tonight by Mariv, you realize that, oh, gosh, goodness, I forgot to count yesterday. Are you allowed to count the next day? How does that work? Okay? And we are also going to do a little bit of a deeper analysis of appreciating why that really is. Why can't you count another day? Do we consider all 49 days of counting all 49 pieces of one large mitzvah, or are they 49 independent mitzvahs? Difference being that perhaps if you forgot one day, so you can't count the next day anymore because you can't do the bracha.
You could count
because you haven't done the mitzvah anymore.
You're not supposed to say.
Is there